Okay, so you walk into a casino, the lights are on, the slot machines are ringing, there's a blackjack table in the corner where somebody just doubled down on a 17 and the whole table groaned. You watch that floor and you think, this is a gambling business. The house has a mathematical edge on every single bet. Blackjack, roughly 0.5%. Slots, 2 to 10%. Roulette, 5.26% because of that second green zero. Over millions of hands and millions of spins, that edge adds up and the casino wins. The math seems obvious. That's the business. Except it isn't. Not even close. The Nevada Gaming Control Board publishes a document every year that breaks down exactly where the money comes from on the Las Vegas Strip. The total revenue number for fiscal year 2025 was $21 billion. 21 billion? But here's the detail that everyone missed. The gambling floor, all the blackjack, and the slots, and the roulette, and the craps tables, all of it combined produced roughly 5.5 billion of that total. That's about 26%. Barely a quarter. The other 74%, the other $15.5 billion came from hotel rooms, restaurants, bars, nightclubs, entertainment, retail, and a list of other things that have absolutely nothing to do with a deck of cards or a pair of dice. The detail that gets lost in all of that is that the gambling floor isn't even where most of the money comes from. So if the casino floor isn't the business, what is? Think of a casino the way you'd think of a shopping mall. A shopping mall has an anchor store, a big department store sitting at the end of the building. And that anchor store isn't where the mall makes its money. What the anchor store does is get foot traffic through the door. People drive to the mall because the anchor is there, and then they walk past every other store on the way in and on the way out. The food court, the boutiques, the phone kiosk, the shoe store, those are where the money lives. The anchor is what gets people through the door, and once they're inside, they spend money at everything else on the way. A casino works the same way. The gambling floor is the anchor store. It's the reason you walk through the door. It's the thing on the sign, the thing in the commercials, the thing you tell your friends you're going to do this weekend. But the hotel rooms, the restaurants, the nightclubs, the shows, the bars, the spa, the shopping, that's the mall. That's where the actual revenue sits. And the way those two pieces relate to each other, the anchor and the mall, is the single most important thing to understand about how a modern casino makes its money. Now, this wasn't always the case. There was a time when casinos really were gambling businesses. If you walked onto the Las Vegas Strip in the 1970s or the early 80s, what you found was a string of gambling halls that had some hotel rooms upstairs and a cheap buffet somewhere in the back. The rooms were cheap on purpose. The food was cheap on purpose. Everything that wasn't a poker table or a slot machine existed to get people onto the gaming floor and keep them there. Those other things were just expenses, the cost of running the real business, which was gambling. And then one person changed the entire model. On November 22nd, 1989, a man named Steve Wynn opened a resort called the Mirage on the Las Vegas Strip. It cost $630 million to build. At the time, that was the most expensive hotel casino ever constructed. And that number alone tells you something important about what Wynn was doing, because nobody in Las Vegas had ever spent anywhere near that much on a single property. Wynn was building something Las Vegas had never seen before. The Mirage had over 3,000 hotel rooms, and they were genuinely luxurious rooms, not the afterthought motel rooms that most strip casinos offered. It had world-class entertainment. It had a volcano out front that erupted every single night. It had a habitat with white tigers and bottlenose dolphins. It had restaurants run by real chefs, not the sad all-you-can-eat buffets that Las Vegas was known for. The gambling floor was still there, obviously. But for the first time, the gambling floor wasn't the headliner. It was one attraction among many inside a building designed to be a destination on its own. And the bet paid off in a way that rewrote the entire industry. Before the Mirage, entertainment and dining and hotel rooms were loss leaders. They were things you gave away cheap or even free to get people gambling. After the Mirage, those things became revenue centers. Hotel rooms stopped being bait and started making real money on their own. Restaurants went from cheap buffets subsidized by the gaming floor to premium dining pulling in serious per-plate revenue. And the entertainment was Cirque du Soleil selling out a custom-built theater every night, not some lounge act you wandered into after dinner. The model worked so well that it triggered an arms race. The Bellagio followed, then the Venetian, then the Mandalay Bay, each one bigger and more expensive than the last. Each one doubling down on the idea that the resort itself was the product and the casino floor was just one floor inside the product. That transformation shows up in the long-term data. The UNLV Center for Gaming Research tracks departmental revenues across Nevada going back to 1984. 40 years ago, gaming accounted for 59% of total revenue on the Las Vegas Strip. Today, it accounts for 35%. That's a 24-point swing over 4 decades. And the gains went almost entirely to 2 categories: rooms and entertainment. Statewide, gaming fell from 62% of total revenue to 43%. The entire industry pivoted from gambling business to entertainment business over the course of a generation, and most people outside the industry still picture the old version. So here's the simple version. A modern casino, the kind operating on the Strip right now, is a hotel and entertainment company that happens to have a gambling floor. The gambling floor gets you through the door, everything surrounding it pays the bills. And if that framework is clicking for you, subscribe, because the next layer is where the actual mechanics of how this machine works start to make sense. But saying it's not gambling only tells you what the business isn't. Here's what it actually is. Let's start with the biggest line item, because it's the one that surprises people the most. Hotel rooms. In fiscal year 2024, room revenue on the Las Vegas Strip hit $7.4 billion. That was the highest number ever recorded. To put that in perspective, the entire gaming floor, every table game and slot machine on the Strip combined, brought in less than that. The hotel rooms, by themselves, out-earned all of the gambling. In fiscal year 2025, room revenue dropped slightly to $7.1 billion. But even in a down year, the rooms still pulled in more than the games did. And the rooms aren't operating the way a normal hotel operates. A Marriott in a business district fills rooms by competing on price and location and convenience. A casino hotel fills rooms by building an entire ecosystem around them. You don't book a room at the Bellagio because it's conveniently located near your meeting. You book it because the Bellagio has restaurants, shows, a nightclub, a pool complex, and a casino floor, and you're going to spend money at all of them during your stay. The room keeps you inside the building for 2 or 3 nights, instead of driving home after dinner. And every night you stay is a night you eat in their restaurants, drink at their bars, and walk through their casino floor on the way to the elevator. That's before the food and beverage charges, before the show tickets, before the spa visits. The hotel room is the most valuable square footage in the building, and it doesn't have a single slot machine in it. Then there's the food and beverage operation. A large Strip casino might have a dozen restaurants under one roof, ranging from a burger counter to a steakhouse charging $80 a plate. And those restaurants only have to be good enough that you don't leave the building to eat somewhere else. As long as the food inside is good enough, the guest doesn't go outside to eat. And every meal eaten inside the property is revenue the casino captured simply by being convenient. The same applies to the bars. A cocktail at a casino bar costs $15 to $20. The margins are enormous, and the customer was going to drink anyway. The casino just made sure they did it inside. Then there are the nightclubs, and this is where the numbers start to sound made up. XS Nightclub, which is inside the Wynn, brought in over $100 million in revenue in a single year. Hakkasan, which sits inside the MGM Grand, matched it. That's not a typo, by the way. A single nightclub, inside a casino, generating 9 figures in annual revenue. Hakkasan cost $200 million to build as a 5-story, 80,000 square foot venue, and at that revenue level, the payback math was not a problem. Las Vegas holds 7 of the top 10 highest grossing nightclubs in the entire United States, and every single one of them is inside a casino resort. And the reason those numbers work is the same reason the hotel numbers work. Everything feeds everything else. The person who flew in for the nightclub walks through the casino floor to get there. The person who came to gamble sees the nightclub and decides to stay for it. The person at the nightclub books a hotel room because they're not driving home at 3 in the morning. The person in the hotel room eats breakfast at the restaurant downstairs. Every single revenue stream shares the same customer base and the same roof, and the result is a flywheel where each business makes every other business in the building more profitable. But this wasn't just about building more restaurants and hotel rooms. The real innovation was figuring out how to keep the gambler inside the building long enough to spend money on all of it. This is where the comp system comes in, and if you've never looked closely at how comps work, the mechanics are genuinely fascinating. Here's the setup. You sit down at a slot machine and you insert your player's card. That card is tracking every single bet you make. Not your wins and losses, your bets. The casino doesn't actually care whether you won or lost on any given night. What the casino cares about is something called your theoretical loss, and it's calculated from a very simple formula. Take the total amount you wagered, multiply it by the house edge of the game you're playing, and the result is the amount the casino statistically expects to win from you over time. If you put $1,000 through a slot machine that returns 90% to players, your theoretical loss is $100. Doesn't matter if you actually walked away up 50 bucks. The math says you were worth $100 to the casino, and the casino runs on the math, not on any single session. Now, here's the part that makes this a retention machine instead of just an accounting exercise. Casinos take that theoretical loss number and they rebate 20 to 40% of it back to you in the form of comps. Free hotel rooms, free dinners, free drinks at the table, free show tickets, free spa treatments, and none of it is generosity. Every single comp is calculated to the dollar based on how much you're worth to them over time. Let's walk through the math on a practical level, because this is where you can see the machine working. Say your theoretical loss is $100. The casino comps you a dinner worth 40 bucks. That dinner actually cost the casino maybe $12 in food cost. So the casino spent $12 to keep you inside a building where your theoretical contribution is $100, and on top of that, you didn't leave for dinner. You stayed. You ate in the building, you probably had a couple of drinks at the table after, and maybe you walked past the blackjack tables on the way back from the restaurant and sat down for another hour. That $12 dinner just generated hours of additional time in the building. And those hours generated room charges, bar tabs, and more time on the gaming floor, which generated more theoretical loss, which generated more comps, which kept you there even longer. That's the kind of number that makes accountants cry, because the margins on the comp system are ridiculous. A free hotel room that the casino values at $300 costs them maybe $60 in housekeeping, linens, and utilities. But that room kept a guest inside the property for an extra night, and over the course of that night, the guest spent $500 on gambling, dinner, and the nightclub. The casino traded $60 in real cost for $500 in real revenue, and the guest walked away thinking the casino did them a favor. And the house edge, that mathematical advantage everyone thinks is the business model, is actually just the input that makes this system run. The 2 to 10% edge on every game generates the theoretical loss number, which funds the comp budget, which keeps you inside the building where all the real revenue is. So the comp system keeps you inside the building, but keeping you there is only half the equation. The other half is knowing exactly what to offer you, when to offer it, and precisely how much you're worth. Every major casino in the United States runs a loyalty program. You've seen them. You sign up at the front desk, you get a plastic card, and every time you gamble or eat or buy a show ticket, you swipe the card and earn points. On the surface, it looks like a frequent flyer program. Spend money, earn points, redeem points for free stuff. Simple. It is not simple. The loyalty program is arguably the most valuable thing the casino owns, and there's a bankruptcy case that proved it in court. Caesars Entertainment runs a loyalty program called Caesars Rewards. It used to be called Total Rewards. It has over 55 million members worldwide, and approximately 80% of patrons who walk into a Caesars property use the card. That is an astonishing opt-in rate. Think about that. 8 out of every 10 people who gamble at a Caesars casino voluntarily hand over a tracking device that records every bet they place, every meal they buy, every hotel room they book, every show ticket they purchase, and every item they buy in the gift shop. The casino sees all of it, and it remembers all of it, and it has been remembering all of it for over 2 decades. In 2015, Caesars Entertainment filed for bankruptcy. The company was buried under $24 billion in debt from a leveraged buyout that went sideways during the financial crisis. When the creditors started picking apart the company's assets, fighting over which properties and contracts and cash flows belonged to whom, one asset surfaced that caught everyone's attention: the Total Rewards database. Nearly 2 decades of behavioral data on its entire membership. The creditors valued it at over $1 billion, and it was identified as the single most valuable individual asset in the entire bankruptcy. Not any specific casino, not the Caesars Palace building, not the brand name, the database. And the reason it was worth that much is because of what it lets the casino do. Your player card isn't tracking your gambling, it's tracking you. It knows your average daily theoretical loss, which tells the casino how much you're statistically worth on any given visit. It knows which games you prefer, which tells them which machines to put in front of you. It knows how often you visit, which tells them when to send you an offer. It knows your spending patterns at restaurants and shops, which tells them how much non-gaming revenue you generate on top of your gambling. It knows your price sensitivity, meaning it knows the minimum comp offer that will get you to drive to the casino instead of staying home. All of this feeds into a system that calculates your lifetime value and prices every interaction accordingly. The host who calls you with a free weekend package isn't being friendly. They ran your numbers, and the package costs less than what you're projected to spend. The upgrade to the suite wasn't a happy accident. Your average daily theoretical crossed a threshold, and the system flagged you for the upgrade because the math says the suite keeps high-value players from defecting to a competitor. The coupon for a free dinner that showed up in your email on a Tuesday wasn't random. Tuesday is a slow night. You haven't visited in 6 weeks, and your historical pattern says a dinner comp is the cheapest offer that reliably gets you back through the door. And here's what makes this different from every other loyalty program you've ever used. Your airline frequent flyer card knows you flew to Denver. Your grocery store rewards card knows you bought milk. The casino's card knows how you behave under financial pressure, how long you play when you're losing, how quickly you escalate your bets after a win, how much you spend on food and entertainment relative to your gambling budget, and exactly which combination of comps will maximize the total amount of money you leave inside the building over the next 12 months. No other consumer industry on earth has this depth of behavioral data on its customers, and no other industry has this kind of financial incentive to use it. What comes next is the part that still doesn't make sense to most people, because the building itself, the physical structure of the casino, is designed from the ground up to serve this exact system. You walk through the casino, and the building feels like it was designed to entertain you. And it was, but every design choice also works to keep you from leaving. And once you understand the non-gaming revenue model, every one of those choices starts to make sense. Start with the most famous one. There are no clocks on the walls, and there are no windows to the outside. This is deliberate. Researchers call it temporal distortion, and the effect is exactly what it sounds like. When you remove every external cue that tells a person what time it is, they lose track of time. They don't realize they've been sitting at a table for 4 hours. They don't notice that it's 2 in the morning. And every additional hour they spend inside the building is another hour of potential revenue from food, drinks, entertainment, and gambling. Then there's the layout. Walk into a casino and try to find the bathroom. Try to find the elevator to your hotel room. Try to find the exit. In most casinos, the path to any of those things runs directly through the gaming floor. This isn't an accident. Casino layouts are deliberately designed as mazes, winding paths with no straight lines and no clear sight lines to the exits. Every route between where you are and where you're trying to go passes you by slot machines, table games, a bar, and a restaurant. The gaming floor sits at the center of the building like the hub of a wheel, and every spoke leads through it. You can't get to the restaurant without walking past the slots. You can't get back to your room without walking past the tables. The building is engineered so that every trip between 2 non-gaming destinations requires you to cross through the anchor store. And then there's the sound. Slot machines don't just make noise. They make very specific noise. When someone wins, even a small win, even a win that's less than the amount they originally bet, the machine plays a celebratory jingle. Coins clatter into the tray, or at least they used to, and lights flash. The sound carries. And the person 3 rows over hears that sound, and their brain registers it as someone near me just won money. The technical term for what happens next is FOMO, fear of missing out, and it is one of the most reliable behavioral triggers in psychology. You hear someone win, and you want to keep playing. Not because you've done the math, because the sound told your brain that winning is happening right now, and you're missing it. If you're wondering how all of this is even legal, so is everyone else. But what matters for understanding the business is why all of it exists. Every one of these design choices, the missing clocks, the maze layout, the sound design, serves the same function. They keep you inside the building. And keeping you inside the building is where the money is. Not at the blackjack table. Not at the slot machine. At the restaurant you eat at because you didn't realize it was dinner time. At the bar you stop at because it was on the way to the elevator. At the hotel room, you extend for another night because you're having a great time and your player card just earned you a discounted rate. So the gambling floor gets you through the door, the comps keep you inside, the data tells them exactly what you're worth, and the building is designed so you never want to leave. Subscribe if you want to see more breakdowns like this, because there's one more layer to all of it, and it's the one that ties the whole system together. Here's what makes this whole system more clever than it looks on the surface. The house edge is a loss leader. Not in the way that a grocery store sells milk below cost to get you in the door. In a much deeper way than that, the casino's entire identity, the word casino itself, the neon lights, the chips, the felt tables, the James Bond mythology of it all, that identity exists to disguise what the business actually is. Because if you walked into a building and someone at the front desk said, "Welcome to our hotel and entertainment complex. We're going to track every purchase you make, calculate your financial value down to the dollar. Use that data to send you precisely calibrated offers designed to maximize your lifetime spending." And, by the way, the hallways are intentionally confusing so you can't find the exit. You would turn around and walk out. But nobody says that. They say, "Welcome to the casino," and you walk in excited. That's the trick. The word casino reframes a surveillance-equipped, data-driven, psychologically optimized hotel and entertainment operation as a place of excitement and possibility and glamour. Nobody flies to Las Vegas because they want to stay at a hotel that tracks their spending habits. They fly there because they want to gamble. They want the thrill. They want the story. And while they're chasing that thrill, they spend nearly 3 times as much money on everything that isn't gambling as they do on the gambling itself. The 26% number from the Gaming Control Board isn't a weakness in the casino's business model. It is the business model. The gambling floor generates just enough revenue and just enough excitement to justify the building's existence in the customer's mind. And then the building does the rest. The house edge produces the theoretical loss that funds the comps that keep you inside, where the data system learns your patterns and the architecture keeps you circulating past every revenue center in the building. Take away the gambling and the whole machine breaks. Without the casino floor, you're just a hotel. And nobody flies across the country to stay at a hotel. This is why the ratio hasn't changed much in decades. Gaming has been less than half of total strip revenue for 27 consecutive years. That ratio has held steady because the industry landed on the balance that makes the whole system work. The casino industry figured out exactly how much gambling they need, and they've been running at that level ever since. The 26% is parked right where it makes the most money, generating just enough gambling to power the system without so much that the building forgets what the real business is. And the player who thinks they're beating the house, the one who walks away up $200 on a good night and feels like they just got one over on the casino, that's the most valuable player in the building. Because that player is going to tell their friends. They're going to come back. They're going to book the hotel room and eat at the steakhouse and see the show and spend $1,000 on everything that isn't gambling, all because they feel like they won. The house edge let them win a couple $100. The building took a couple thousand. So the next time you walk into a casino, look around. The slot machines are ringing, the cards are being dealt, the roulette wheel is spinning, and none of that is the business. The business is the $300 hotel room above your head, the $40 steak on your plate, the $100 bottle at the nightclub, and the loyalty card in your pocket that's recording every single one of those transactions. So the system can calculate exactly how much you're worth and exactly what it needs to offer you to bring you back. $21 billion. That's what the Las Vegas Strip takes in every year. And 26% of it comes from the thing with the casino's name on it. The other 74% comes from everything you spend while you're too busy gambling to notice. Tell me which business you want me to break down next.